Hello, Sheryl. Welcome to Education Next podcast, and I'm happy to have you here. And this is what something I do. I let my guest introduce themselves because in that case, I don't make any mistakes. So I will, I'll let you, introduce yourself. Yeah.
Y- Okay, sounds good. Hi, I'm Cheryl, and I'm a homeschool mom. Firstly, I have three wonderful, beautiful boys, extremely boisterous. But yeah, this is my life. And I also coach and organize events around parenting and education. And because of my three boys, who I'm homeschooling, I extend this my work to my community around me, and really just work with people to get them to see a different perspective to education. Education is not just uh, schooling and within the four walls of schools. The education is a whole lifetime, and it's just so wonderful to be able to advocate self-directed learning and to get more people to understand what it means to be
Mhm.
in your own destiny of your own education.
Absolutely. I totally, agree with the idea of exploring and understanding, education for yourself and for your family. And I think that's what you're doing. Just let us know a little bit how you started in understanding and you wanted to do this for your kids. When did this like start?
We always knew that we were going to homeschool our kids because we saw models of successful homeschoolers. So even before we had kids, we knew that we were going to homeschool. But
Mhm.
what was surprising was that we didn't expect the way that we homeschool is very different from the way that we thought we would homeschool at the beginning. So when we first started, we saw the model of homeschooling. It was still a very traditional way of homeschooling, which means that you school at home, you do the typical tests, and you do the exams, the major exams, and things like that. So what happened was when we saw that model of kids who were homeschooled, and they are our friends now, they are our peers, so they're the same age. They had an accelerated learning. So
Mhm.
we thought, oh wow, this is great. We can, have geniuses, and
Mhm.
our kids will, accelerate their learning, and they will get to the workforce faster, and they will be more successful.
Mhm.
But life doesn't turn out that way. When we had our kids, then we realized that the way that we want to educate our kids is very different from the initial way that we thought we would want to homeschool.
Mhm.
So our values changed. So we wanted to learn by teach and learn and educate them by looking at them, observing them as their model, listen to them and follow their lead. And
Mhm.
so our style is very play-based. So when we first started in the early childhood period, during the
Mhm.
early childhood period, we did Reggio Emilia approach.
Mhm.
And Reggio Emilia is a program that started in Italy. And what happens is they really engage in the community and get everybody involved in teaching and educating a child. And it's all very free flow. And they
Mhm.
follow the child, and by looking at what the child's interests are, and they make about wonderings about what the child is thinking about,
Mhm.
and then use that as an opportunity to invite the child to learn and explore more. So
Mhm.
because we started with this model, we
Mhm.
realized that this is a wonderful way to really see the child learn, and there are so many ways that the child learn that we don't expect, right?
Mhm.
So they really catch us by surprise, not just by their ability to be able to work with things and think about things, but the way that we think that of how they learn is also different. So
Mhm.
when we were taught in schools, we were taught it in a very linear way, right? Like we learn math in a certain order, we learn, language in a certain order, but life doesn't happen like that, right? You
Correct.
and I know that as adults, we don't learn in a straight line curve. You say, for example, if you're setting up a business or you're an entrepreneur, all of these things are like just coming to you and you just pick things up. You learn accounting, you learn how to sell, you learn all of these elements just come to you when you need them and you pick them up according to when it is necessary. So learning becomes actually it's like clumps or clusters of learning, and there will be leaps and bounds and things like that that you don't
Mm,
expect.
mhm.
And if we were to see just learning as every day, in a monotonous, very strict, same kind of learning every single day, then it's going to be really boring. And that's it's not what we want, in our kids. And our kids lose the sparkle in their eye to want to learn and be curious about things. And we really want to keep that sparkle going on.
So true. And, like you said, learning in school can be very linear, isn't it? And the other thing is, you never get to apply the amount of knowledge that you collect, right? I mean, you are promoted from one grade to the other grade. And that's what now, when I think about it, um, it's so much that you are learning, you're consuming, literally, you're consuming, but you never get to apply this until you reach a stage. And then you're quite old at that point of time, and then you get to apply all the skills, and that you forgot half of it, most of it actually, by the time you actually need to apply these things. And that has happened with us as well, right? And then we have to go back and revise and look at,
Unlearn, yeah.
unlearn and relearn, upskill, and then you feel, why did I learn so much and I don't find so many things that are relevant to my life, right? um, the idea behind introducing everything to kids, I think it comes from that you expose them to a lot of things, but most things, when they don't apply, when they don't do it actually, it starts going somewhere, isn't it? So tell me, where you live, how is it, how popular is this idea now about homeschooling or about self learning, and how are you building this community of self learners?
I live in Singapore. And there is, because Singapore is so small, there is a very thriving homeschool community
Mm,
in Singapore. So Singapore is so tiny, so a lot of people get to meet up with other people, so socialization is not a problem.
mm,
And they do, and moms and everybody would chip in to help create the curriculum and things like that. So it's relatively doable. It's like having like multiple teachers
mhm,
around you to help you, and we all work on different topics together. But what is unique about our learning, because our learning is unschooling or self-directed learning, or interest-led and child-led way of learning, there is still a much tinier population who are doing that. Of course,
mm,
as homeschoolers, most homeschoolers have a certain level of flexibility, and there's a reason why they choose to homeschool for that flexibility.
mm,
So they will incorporate some of these ideas like project learning and learning through life, things like that that will be quite similar to us.
mm,
But we do find that people who adopt our style are still relatively small. And that's the
mm,
reason why I decided to advocate self-directed education as a way to get people more understand and be more exposed to this idea of learning.
mm,
My community that I'm trying to build is not just related to homeschoolers. Basically, as long as you're an invested um, educator or a parent, and you want a different alternative outcome, alternative education for your child, you can be involved in this community. It's not just an idea that is just only for homeschoolers. There are also self-directed schools out there, and progressive schools, democratic schools, and all these other different models compared to the regular traditional school models. So there are schools that are actually doing this already, but it's just we happen to be in the homeschooling category. So I'm really trying to say that this style of learning is really for everyone, and it is not as alienating or unknown or different from what we really know, because ultimately, us as adults, when we take on lifelong learning after our formative education years, this is what we do for the rest of our lives, right? And this is
correct.
how we do our, we pick up hobbies. When
Mm,
we as adults we pick up hobbies, we are following our interests and then we learn new things. If you're working in your workplace or a business, you pick up all of these leadership skills and all of this, negotiation skills and all these skills that you were not essentially not taught in schools, right? So why wait till my kid has grown up, like what you have rightly pointed out? Why wait till they grow up and then decide that the best way is to get them to learn then? Why don't we just
Hmm.
incorporate all of these ideas right now when they are still young and when they're still malleable and when they can absorb all of these things? For me, I think the most important gift that I would like to give my children is to give them the gift of learning and the gift of self-discovery. When
Mhm.
I give them the ability to learn, the ability to look into themselves and understand what kind of person I am, what kind of person I want to be, that they can take on any challenge in the world, that they can become resilient, that they can, find tools or, things that they can help them to be able to solve their own problems. I want to build problem solvers, right? When I focus on like specific topics like math or science, it's great that they have all of this knowledge, but if they do not know how to apply, if they do not know how to deal with setbacks, then they will not be able to apply all of this knowledge in a workplace scenario or in a whatever scenario that they face. So to me, it is more important that we settle the inside stuff, right? The
Mm.
inside stuff, meaning their emotional regulation, their social skills, their all this what we used to call them as soft skills, and to be able to talk to people, negotiate, and build resilience, and all of these things, right? If we can help them understand these things about them, these things about these skills,
Mhm.
and also at the same time help them understand about themselves and where they stand within this whole world,
Mhm.
that when they find that they have difficult or conflicting situations, that they can say, this is who I am, this is where I want to be, and I'm gonna go for it. Like, you can, yes, you're different from me, and you're doing something different, but this is my path. And he or she will be able to, stand on their 2 feet, to be able to protect themselves, defend themselves, chase their own passion, whatever the scenario is, that they are very firm on what they want.
Mhm. Um, so interesting, because the most of the people that I talk to, especially setting up alternate spaces, alternate educational spaces, they have the same idea about building this kind of an educational space where they feel that children should know what is inside first. Mostly, how we can say self-awareness, to raise, to be able to be self-aware and to be able to make the choices that they feel right, and be able to distinguish positives and negatives, and these kind of are the skills that actually we feel that is really important for kids than just you know um, uh, finishing one line, or one target or the other, finishing one goal after the other, till you come to a point where you don't even know what you're doing now. And it has happened to many people that I know personally. I'm sure you also know. They they it they were struggling, or we struggled through many phases in our life because we were confused. It's not that children will not be confused, it's okay to be confused, but at least to build those skills where they can understand themselves, they can understand people around them. I think it's really really important. And um like World Economic Forum says that the prime skills that any place where you go to work is critical thinking, problem solving, and any technical skills can always be taught, and actually that's what is
Picked up,
happening.
yeah.
Right.
Exactly right. All the big companies like the Silicon Valley companies like Google, even Walmart,
Hmm.
they want to recruit people not based on the degree certificates or the graduation or the type of certificates that they have right now. What they want is, can you think? They
Hmm.
want people to be able to think and to be able to have this critical thinking skills and all of these other skills that normal people will not be able to have if they do not have this training or this ability to be nurtured in this way. And they say that it's okay. You don't have to know programming. You don't have to know all of these tech skills. I will teach you. In fact, we have a whole Google University. We have a
Mhm.
whole Facebook University. So you don't need to know. You just need to have the right mindset. Uh,
Exactly.
and then you're in. And basically that's what these large companies, forward thinking companies, are already saying.
Mm.
And schools are essentially, they try. I wouldn't say that they don't, but
Mm.
of course, being a big organization, and government, usually government by the ministries of the different countries, they tend to move slowly, right? We know that. So the easiest way is for individuals or companies to be able to take this lead, to be able
Mm.
to help these children to move on a faster pace while we wait for this large organization, large government agencies to catch up. So for us, I think we because we don't see in a specific subject in math and science, and we try to do it as a multidisciplinary system. So how we try to do that is we try to do in some form of project. So when we have a project sort of framework,
Mm.
it gives us the ability to sort of ebb and flow and to have certain fluidity, to follow the child's interest and yet still keep within a certain boundary. And these can be very simple things that non-educators or just parents at home, and even if they are not homeschooling their children, that they can do outside of school time. So, for example, I'm thinking of life at home. So teaching survival skills and life skills, to be able
Mm.
to learn to cook, sew, take care of yourself, use the washing machine, things
Mm.
like that. Just help knowing how the world works. It's just such an important step. There are so many people nowadays that don't even know how to cook. And we're not talking about like being a chef or being like
Correct,
such a fantastic.
correct,
You're just like
correct.
feed yourself, right?
I
So
absolutely. Mhm.
yeah, so
Mm.
actually this was one of this the big thing that we are trying to teach our kids. Just last couple of weeks, we went to Sydney. Recently we went there for
Mm.
to travel. It's part of our world schooling kind of concept. So we traveled to there, and we told them that, look, you want to live life, so we don't see holidays. I need to probably backtrack a little bit, because I need to explain that we don't see holidays as holidays. We see holidays as traveling, as living life. Right, we're
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
living life in a different country, and most of the time people go for holidays. They're thinking, okay, splurging. I can, go for
Mm.
treats. I can stay in a expensive hotel. I can just spend a lot of money on restaurants, and just do all of the things that I wouldn't do at home. And
Mhm.
that's not the philosophy that I want to build for my kids, right? I
Mm.
want them to feel that we are living life. And living life can be living in Singapore, it can be living in Australia, it can be living in India. No matter what country you are, we maintain a certain level of consistency and life. So I see it as going away as experiencing life. And one of the ways that we are experiencing life is to build on that survival skills, to be able to live in a country without help, or without to be able to survive on your own.
Mm.
So my kids are this year, my kids are 8, 9, 7, 9, 8, and 5. And their task this time round in this holiday in Sydney was to be able to cook a meal on their
Mm.
own. So even the
Wow.
5-year-old had to do that.
Mm.
Um, so that was our little test that they have to do. So they were practicing. So maybe it's a
Mm.
little project, a little house project for
Mm.
them, and they have
Mm.
to decide what to prepare, and they have to decide who's gonna cook what. And then my eldest was like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, let me cook breakfast, like, and he's like taking the easy way out, and he being the oldest. I'm like, no, you're going to be the cooking, like, a proper meal. And it's like, am I going to just be cooking for myself? I'm like, no, you have to cook for the whole family. How can you only be eating for yourself. So we had very interesting discussion, and it
Mm,
also highlight to me about his personality that there's a certain level of anxiety hidden
mm,
between all of these lines. He's certain worried about certain things, and he needs to be working on all of these skills to not just be able to physically cook for his family, but also to be able to overcome these challenges that he thinks that maybe he might not be able to do.
mhm,
So this is an example of, doing a project through life. Other things could be like baking. For us, we do in Singapore, we set up entrepreneurship fairs.
mhm,
So they have been involved in setting up a little business, and they have various versions of the business before selling cookies, selling stickers, selling books, and things like that. And that's a way of to be able to incorporate so many
mm.
skills into learning. We have math, we have negotiation, we have presentation skills, we have English, and all of these wonderful skills all learned into one. All it's a multidisciplinary melting pot of skills that we have.
I
Yeah.
think it's a beautifully, like you said, you've incorporated learning in your life in a very beautiful way, like you said. Oh, for example, vacations are always taken as something that you go and splurge, you waste, you are not conscious about the other country, you are throwing things about, you're looking them at from a different kind of a lens. But you forget that there is their own culture, that they have their own kind of, living standards and living ways. But if you start looking all this through a different lens, as in, it's like a learning thing. Last year, Adi and I, my son and I, we went around India, and there's so much diversity in different states. So we decided to live with friends, and for a change we decided not to stay in hotels, because then you are just by yourself. But when you go and live with someone, there is so much that comes around with it. You adjust with their lifestyle. Everybody has different waking up styles, a different kind of breakfast, and how you understand them. At the same time, how you leave their bathroom, how you leave their beds. These are some skills that is so important, because I think as we lives started being more modern for people, stopped going to going visiting their different houses. We have started staying in hotels, Airbnbs and stuff. So we wanted to experiment this, and we realized that there is in 5 6 different homes, it was so much love. And sometimes there was younger kids where Adi had to play with young kids, and sometimes he had to help someone. And so I think these are something very interesting, that when you have this free learning opportunities, you can at least explore. Otherwise it's just one thing after the other, and you never get the time to explore um, learning in a very free fashion, I would say. Now just
Yeah, this is so wonderful to hear.
And you also mentioned something that you are world schooling and you're taking kids to different places. And I think now, like Washington Post recently published an article where they show there's a surge in homeschooling in US. There are some places where there is like the rise in homeschooling is by 300%. People are going.
Wow.
I'll share that article with you. People are going and embracing this kind of learning. They are creating communities. There are micro schools. More and more parents are trying to understand what is my kid doing. How can I be more involved? So what do you think of this trend happening everywhere?
Yeah, I think this is a matter of time, especially in this digital age. In the past, we were all um, sort of confined into our own geographic regions. Um, Last time we're talking about a long time ago, flights and stuff like that were expensive. Airbnb has made it in a way such that more and more people can open up their homes to rent, and so there are more spaces, and rents tends to be more affordable. And more importantly, with this recent shift in technology in terms of this 2.0, or I don't know what you call this, 3.0 internet, that's it really shifted. So in the past, we would never hear of this term called nomadic, um what's that called, nomadic life.
Hmm.
And and these are digital nomads. Sorry, I just
Digital
completely
nomads.
slipped my mind.
Yeah,
Yes. So yeah, you would never hear of this word, and nowadays people are, you and I are meeting on Zoom, and lots of people are working online and away from their families, or away from their original workplace. And because of this mobility, more and more people have the option to be able to homeschool. So I think this is a generation thing, right? So first we have all of these in young nomadic couples going away to travel and to work, and then eventually they'll have kids, right? And guess what, they're not going to be putting the kids back to
exactly.
school. They
Hmm.
are going to be taking their kids, and you see a
Yes.
lot of families starting to do that, even young babies, go on
Hmm.
holidays now. And that's the way, their life that they choose, a nomadic life. So
Mhm.
I definitely think that this trend is rising,
Hmm.
and it will only increase further. But
Hmm.
whether the schools will be able to catch up with that model, because obviously not everyone would have this ability to be able to work in a remote way. So will the schools be able to offer this form of learning for the masses? It will be a very important question to ask.
I think, like you say, Cheryl, I think the decentralized way of living is very fascinating in some sense because I think, what I realized that not everybody has, I'll just talk from the perspective of India, not everybody has that kind of money to send your kids to this very sophisticated school where everything is being taken care of, right? But I also think very deeply that it also, when everything is taken care of by one building, somewhere you get very disconnected with your kid because you have bought a model, a very expensive model, and then you it's like your responsibility is over with that model because they are giving you everything, sports and drama and everything, and you never get to be a part of it because you pay a huge amount of money that is completely taken care of. But when you have these kind of models where you can experiment, you can create your own model with maybe a neighborhood of people joining you, or maybe virtual. Adi and I are very virtual people because the place I live in, homeschooling or something like this will be, people might think we are crazy, but we created our own kind of living that completely suits us. He's a very tech guy. He loves to explore technology a lot. He wants to learn different things, how the tech operates. And I think that could not have been possible if I would have chosen a school where he would have to come back and do all this after the school. It would have been very hectic. We would have, and I have observed this when he was very young in a school. We had a very tight relationship, just pulling him out of the bed, sending him to school, and then picking him up, and then we had very few hours to be with each other. But now it's it's like we are so much at peace. We can talk about goals, we can talk about life, we can what not. So I think, I'm sure you will
Yeah.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it is, if you think about the objective of, education, you're not
Mm.
just trying to create help your child create success. You also want to create a wonderful relationship with your son, with your family, isn't it? And his family is one of the, core pillars of human relationship.
Mhm.
So I think it's wonderful for us to be able to do that. And the thing is, with this thing that you just mentioned, if we don't spend enough time to build the connection with our kids, then it is not possible to do all of these things that you just talked about. So to me, the fundamental of education, of educating my kids, is to first and foremost build a strong connection, a strong relationship with my child. And when I build this strong connection and relationship with my child, things will flow because they are more easeful, they are more happy. When I ask them to do certain things, they're more willing to listen. And then things flow, and I don't have to scold or scream at him or nag at him to get him to do certain things. And he's just so willing to be able to work on things.
Mhm.
So I think this is so powerful that you mentioned that. Um, the other thing that I think about is the art of self-reflection. So, when I go onto this journey and I'm really constantly reflecting how I'm doing, what I'm doing, whether I'm, a good role model for my child, and I reflect on the ways that I'm connecting with him, teaching him, and all of these things. So it has become my own self discovery and self exploration that I would have never gone on this route if I did not have children. So I'm very, very thankful to be able to do this form of exploration, and to also pass this understanding, to him. So I think that is such a wonderful way that you have described.
I think I can totally relate with what you say. I mean, I wouldn't have gone to this journey of understanding myself and my needs and see life through my son if it hadn't been like this. Um, you have summarized the entire thing in a very beautiful way of, how you're with sharing your experiences, building the community. And I think, uh, it's not. It's not that something it's very difficult for people to do, because I think it's more about learning about yourself and then practicing it. Thank you so much, Cheryl, for being here and letting us know about your life and your family and the things you do. We will add your links for more people to understand what you're doing and learn from you. Thank you so much for quickly agreeing to the talk.
Thank you for having me. I'm really glad to be here. I do run projects, personal projects that I would love to share with people who are interested. I help them to set up projects.
Mhm.
I also do one-on-one coaching. So I am very happy to extend, discounts to your audience. And
Ah,
whenever they feel that they need my help, I'm here to
mm.
assist them. Thank
Thank
you
you,
so much
Cheryl.
for letting me here.
Thank you, Cheryl. Have a great weekend and see you again. Bye bye.
See you soon. Bye. Speak soon.